산지초다 산지초다 자전거도 나는 접수지 다게 출신집에서는 돌아 편제 산지도 말아서 발대선을 말하면 다르죠. 빼빼대는 빼지 쳐보고는 이제서 고소 도저로 자도서 알아맞죠. 너무나게 다루던 이게 주문하다 내게 좋아군 저게 저선 바탐제게도 나게 줘대도 라소 강가로 다시 되네. 땅가라서 깔바사모 손을 치고래 유대와시 빈디고 심세 탐지게 에서기 실내여나요. 때 다르지 조주사의 밀르드 시도 내저 턱갈이 가보래. 대소서 나라서 단다 밀르를 보셔 터버래. 밀르를 보셔 터버 대야 주미 쯤에 때는 중앙 말에 저 마모저로 소사 김장치 말람사모 답인 지부게 밀르를 보셔 터버래. 대소사 til라 나라서 소소라니 그런 강고 이런 나가야 시도 내저 가르쳐 버래.
Welcome and Tashi Dilek to all of you. All of us are extremely fortunate. We have great merit. That is because not only have we obtained the cause, which is the Buddha nature that's present in all sentient beings, but in addition to that, we have the support, which is the 18 freedoms and advantages that constitute a precious human rebirth. It's very, very difficult to obtain this, but all of us do have a precious human birth. And this is something that doesn't come about randomly. It doesn't come about without causes and conditions. The causes and conditions that create that circumstance are gathering the accumulations and purifying our obscurations, and additionally making excellent prayers and aspirations. These are the causes that bring about rebirth in a precious human body. And since we have obtained that kind of precious birth this time around, we should all take great joy in this. We should really rejoice in ourselves. This is very important that we do this.
산지 주차나 대바 제주여바 이나요라 산지 주차나 녹다여바 이나요라 너는 로아 메참마세 바보 버세다 추세되자마 탐 제기 셈실의 주의 대신 니암 대화시비니 뭐요래 대화시비니 뭐 세계대로 거대고 전에 셈대 탐지 그 셈실라라시게 잡아줘요래 셈다 셰셰셰 투비게 셰랍줘요래 셰나 셈다 셰셰셰 투비게 셰랍줘요래 되니 소주 이번에 어때서 텔라 대신이고 사와래 얘나야 딥체 대신이 라바래 가르쳐나 라고만도 따나 녀모비지가 처음으로 따나 코스도 또가 지미 파자 집에 딥상황 때문에 이춘이 대신이 때문에 돈나 연대 민가봐 연대가 차도 때서 바로 샤데와 또 쳐요 된다는 때는 대신이 로고요마 차 일날 때만 잡아 엄마랑 말좀 잡았다 심지어 탐지기 심지실에 주인 대신이 여발해라 얘나야 땐 다르와 제 저바 주성의 미유를 뭐지 맞었나 아니 답이죠 아뭐 되게 말해 알도 삼비 잡아 제신 말해 Tenere tenne gomnyamne chimachi chetungo mare. Tenere tenne tabata tamji chimba koba toptungo mare. Tenere soza ludenji namne chotu chibate. Tambi chu drobala chotu chibate. Slave lutopne. La singente shirakitne. Sodam chimba jirete. Diji lonju puso soba jiyabarete. Tewe jaa me lulu bachete. 담배 좀 발라. 근데 밀려 버지. 하바르도 상하 도지 티베 갑선에 르 도지 거 발라. 네티 눈이 서다. 안에 테레를 때네 냥도 셔버지 줄이 제게요래. 밀려 버지도 셔도 내가 가르쳐 버려.
All sentient beings have Buddha nature. It's present in every single sentient being. In fact, it's impossible for a sentient being not to have Buddha nature. We all have it. It's naturally present there for all sentient beings without any exception. Every single being, whether it's someone who has one-pointed faith in the Dharma or who has one-pointed wrong view with respect to the Dharma. It's present in all beings, not just human beings, but every bug, every insect, every wild animal, every single sentient being without any exceptions has Buddha nature. And in short, we can say actually that this refers to this quality that we all have, that all sentient beings have very naturally. We all have the capacity to love, and we all have the capacity to know. That capacity for loving and knowing is present together as a unity. And this is the Buddha nature that is present in all of us. But we talk about it as being obscured suchness. So it is, in fact, Buddha nature. It is suchness. It's nothing other than that. But it is obscured in the coarse sense by our afflictive emotions, the negative emotions, and in a more subtle way, it is obscured by thoughts related to the three spheres of subject, object, and action. And because it is obscured, all of its positive qualities are not manifest. They're not apparent because it is obscured. But it is nonetheless present in all sentient beings in the same way that sesame oil is present in every sesame seed, and in the same way that butter is present within milk. So we all have it. Every sentient being has this Buddha nature. But without the support, which is the precious human body endowed with the 18 freedoms and advantages, without this support, then first of all, we wouldn't even hear the Dharma teachings. We wouldn't be able to listen to the Dharma teachings. And then later, we wouldn't be able to contemplate them, and nor would we be able further along to meditate. And since we didn't hear or contemplate or meditate, that means it's impossible to achieve liberation and omniscience. The best physical support, the best body to have for Dharma practice is precisely this precious human body. We say, may I obtain a body even better than that of the gods. Even better than that of the gods. That refers to a human body. Of course, the gods have a lot of merit, quite a lot of merit. They have quite a lot of enjoyment and pleasure. But for Dharma practice and to be able to practice and actually accomplish the Buddha Dharma, the best physical support is a precious human body. And this is in general for Dharma practice. But when it comes to the Vajrayana, it is even more so. For the practice of Vajrayana, for the practices where we apply the key points of the Vajra body in order to bring about a unique experience and realization, the precious human body is an essential, an absolutely essential support for that kind of practice.
다와 제 저거 쫓아오게 매일 르르버지 시도 내가 토박가와에 맞서서 밀을 못체 수슈가래라 르덴 데 그런데 최 양타마지 조바에는 람나 탐지 생각하고 그대로 맞춰서 전출 생각하고 다주가 그거 또 뭐야 너도 저거 또 뭐야 대야 말 자갈밥이 열다 치수표 간제 종다 대당 derveki sanjiki chö nyamle cheke ta mambo jore yurdu mambo jore Thailand, Burma, Sri Lanka, Korea, Japan te tesho de Himalaya lomba do renjo lata kharsha pirde ne Mongolia da jeba chuba toke chame ba chore kebaya chame ba chore tejo mambo ya bara ta 원수 도 가지고 제야 tenju tsedete 다 단다 산지의 최된 잡을래 가사 갈라 다르게요 그 다르게요 그 타고 제 다르터 받지도 대야 결국 까도 좀 하고 로도 좀 봐. 뭐도 지지 빠도 좀 봐. 라메 메가다 좀 봐. 라니 냠냠 단 돌다 들었지 내가 토하는 말아줘 단 잡을래 최제 참에게 되네 최대 담보 양면까지 양다바지 장 바로 제바체가 제바 찌치바지 제 되네 다 되어 갈고 체대 다 검냠내 잡으래지 미주 검냠내 잡으래 걔야 등산 야랑 게 나랑게다 닝예벽에 이제 라마타 케보도 너베 컨트 빼서 야고 여기서는 컨트롤에 가리시게 열어서는 니마를 탐에 탐한테 되네 주수 찍으려나 딱 검잡고도 검냠래 칸도에 가르쳐버리 되네 롭조 제한테 가르쳐버리 파라 최시 제한테 가르쳐버리 제 탐지 나나 가르쳐줄 때만 주줄 냠도 쳐버리게 줄 쳐버려 냠도 저성 그 시간 때문에 영원면도 최초 삼순 장바체나 영원면도 아니 소사 굉장히 제대 잡으래 가르쳐버려 되면은 때는 냠도 줄 제거 말해 탑 쳐주 줄 말해 될라 소마 탐지 탑으래 대탑 뭐한테 냠래 쳐버려 대소사 딱 검냠래 쳐버려 생겨 야야 쉬고요 딱 검냠래 세 될라 되네 디나라 다 시대다 나도 제ren다 조를 나서 냠래 그래 다 요요버려 그래서 다 되어 가르치셔 되라 미래에 주스스 마다와체 가르치는데 지를 뒤에 탐지 메다바리
A precious human body endowed with the 18 freedoms and advantages is something that is extremely difficult to obtain. That's why we call it a precious human life. When we have this kind of physical support, this kind of body, we have the capacity to practice the Dharma very genuinely. In the best case, we would obtain the state of omniscience. Or if not that, then the state of great awakening or the state of an arhat. In short, there have been so many practitioners in the past in the noble land of India, later in the snowy land of Tibet, as well as in countries all over the world where Buddhism has spread. Places like Thailand and Sri Lanka and Burma and China and Japan, all over the Himalayan region, places like Bhutan and Sikkim and Spiti and Ladakh, places like Mongolia, and so on. There have been countless practitioners who have attained accomplishment. There have been countless practitioners also, countless scholars also, who have become extremely, extremely learned. We can see this because we have access to their texts, these countless incredible, genuine treatises that have been composed by such scholars. Now, these days, the Dharma has spread all over the world. It's present in many, many different places in the world. And it's so important, so essential, in fact, that all of us practice the Dharma genuinely. The Dharma has to spread genuinely. It has to spread in accordance with the valid words of the Buddha, the valid treatises of noble beings, the valid reasoning, as well as the valid pith instructions of the teacher. And it also has to match with our own experience. This is something that is so important. Every single one of us, we have to begin by studying the Dharma very genuinely. And then next, we have to contemplate and reflect upon the teachings very genuinely. And most importantly, we have to meditate. We must put the teachings into practice through meditation.
Sanjiji Duche Tamjin Metapo Sorry. Duche Bichuta, the Metapo Sorry. That's a Karusungre Sorry. Duche Tam, the church, Metapa Yente, to Namia, Tapu Koga, maybe Chil, Sakasa, Chushan comes to Sugarella. The church of Manche saying you take one about to Shimu, Jabachabina. Duche Chuta, the kitchen jump. Meneba, Yodovan, Judovan, Shinjiri. To Totayabo, Quana, then Tan, Chapata, Shabasing, the Rashi, country door, Massive. Some of Tobani, Nilu Tobalaya, Shida, Pengiri. There's what the Tikola Yaya, Charazo too. Shadi, Jebanaro.
The Buddha taught that all compounded things are impermanent. In fact, he said precisely this. So consider the subject, which is all conditioned phenomena. They are impermanent because they are incapable of remaining permanent at any point. I mentioned this again and again in my recent set of teachings, and I think probably most of you were there and listened to those already. But this is something that's important for us to recall again and again, to remember that conditioned phenomena don't remain even for an instant. They are constantly changing, and coming to understand impermanence is beneficial in and of itself, but it is also beneficial in bringing us closer to the realization of profound emptiness. And so this is something that it's very important for each of us to bring to mind again and again and again.
Tanjin, Tapa, Matu Tapare, some cheap energy, Tapare, some Nari, make Simje, Juba, Tapare, some Chapa, the Sheba, Tele, the Majar, Tato, there's no son of the young Topa cheap pen in J, and the Legam Mamusa, send the one Mamujet in the Yogi. There's also Sakshen Kichuate, Majuma Chabala. Then Metabai being so they are all shed the Rashi, the Shashin Kichota Ma, Chudore, Jodore. There's also the Sajike, the Shetamjin, the Metapo, so go work necessary. The Shejari, the Chuluk gets a Mare, the Shejari.
We think that things are going to last, but of course they aren't, because conditioned things are impermanent. We think, oh, this world around me, the outer world, which is like a vessel, we think this is somehow is going to remain. We think the sentient beings within the world are going to last. We think that the objects around us are going to last. And because of thinking that they are not really acknowledging that they're impermanent, and because of thinking that they are going to last, then we feel attachment to them, and we give rise to attachment, to hatred, to delusion, to pride, to jealousy, to all kinds of negative emotions. And because we get caught up in all of those negative emotions, then that brings suffering for all of us. Contemplating the impermanence of all of these things helps us to reduce that kind of clinging and attachment. When we think about the fact that these things are impermanent, then just very naturally our attachment to them is reduced. The Buddha said all conditioned things are impermanent, but that's just because it's true. It's a fact. It's not some kind of religious belief. It is simply a fact about the way things are.
Kapsa Bavala Maragalunde Milu Nanaya Dharma Jet, Jova Chusai Milu Rinpoche Tabare. De Legende Tone, so Yamle Apochi Chena, Lenga Tarbi to say Ludi, Yena Corbett to Ludi Swari. Therefore, corrupt Martin Jantole par damage to see them. Then the Tarbata Tabi Champion Komaya, Luden Diladen, Toto Yomasola, Gawagongo Atam, Dieu Bear Trust to go to Yapakawa Yamatam. Nye kala jiklawa sa kare sina lute jiru dusei patang. Tende tanda joma mantuju pubai patang. Te ke manyam na tena ne nasa yo patang. Te shedu che korang na che yo patang. Ame ngan na che ne te mi che te jaju kuju jajam tawa la kale kabo yorim. Lotang jasam tulala, tersota milu de la che batang. Mache beke, ngar milu top de chia, jites kamla, ne yamani. Ganga, ane, da, karso, che pesuma shadari. Tersota, tene, chubata, chumin yiki yawadamate, meta yaya semla. Korke, meta choshi ke simju ya kurke, ya kana tapa tema medu, meta barashere do, doshe tamse ki meta bore do, kase sangna sebo do, sabba tamane, zebri do, dube tamane, raldo do, zekba tamane, jeldo do, ta ngana tada chewa lene, ta chewa le nyero. Nyero. Da lokase tosu. Lokase chihu. Da jungjo lokase ladu de samla tanga. Ane tangdeng mase peke marasu me chesegete. Losep ke marme tabu soarete. Loke semla marme che parse yuna. Tati marku mase ke parto marme marayo. Tete medu. Long la rale bare. Long shan, long, hard, long, no, the long, chen, then Kandar say, long chen, then and chapter, lower to Jeparshima Boyer, so Meta, Joshi, Meta, Center, John, ya, Metapare. Samsara. Teki, tena tabe cho dobala kulma chigiri. Meta joshi simju kul sa. Te meta joshi kache pyo tabo di jole chena, tezi ke namye da che lelo da ni pame da som chishor da shi. Tene ngabate da chochigi ngamten chishor. Da te ngajoke choba choke da parche se de tiri sanskrit la marase do bebeke parche se pararo se parche do hende nami lelo pami chishola soma de kete parche chi tebe sonsa parche ko meta wala kharche bori sani meta choshete yame jore cheda teta parchi mara want do mare te shibden de karcho mare.
Here we have obtained a precious human body. So we should think to ourselves, now I have this human body, not just a human body, but the precious human body with the 18 freedoms and advantages. I've obtained this body. And if I use this for Dharma practice, then it can bring about a tremendous benefit. That is to say, if used well, it can be a ship that carries across the ocean of samsara. and if used poorly, then it becomes a weight that sinks us down into the depths of samsara. And so it's very important to use this precious human body as a ship to carry us across the ocean of samsara, away from, beyond all pain and suffering. And it's possible that we can use this, if we use it well, that we can use this precious human body for that. And so we should actually take delight in the fact that I have this body, that if I use it well, if I use it properly and correctly, I can become free from samsara using this precious human body. It's something that's very difficult to obtain, and we can come to understand just how difficult by contemplating in terms of examples, in terms of the causes that bring about the precious human body, and in terms of numbers of different classes of beings. And so it's very difficult to obtain, but it's also very easy to lose. What do we mean when we say that it's very easy to lose? Well, it's because this body is a compounded phenomenon. And everything which is compounded, as we know, is impermanent. It is a body which is the coming together of the 5 elements. When those elements are out of balance, then the body becomes sick. And because it is coming together of these 5 elements, then it is a conditioned thing, and it's an impermanent thing. Also, our life has a limit, a lifespan. From the moment that we were born from our mother's womb, the longest that we might live is 100 years, but even that long is difficult. And also, if we think about the fact that every single human being who has ever been born into a human body before has eventually left and has died, right? Then we can understand that we are no different from that. Everyone who has ever been born has died. And so what's the difference really between a Dharma practitioner and someone who's not a Dharma practitioner? The difference is that a Dharma practitioner is someone who thinks of impermanence, regularly, again and again and again, who allows their mind to be inspired with the thought of impermanence and a sense of weariness with samsara. A Dharma practitioner is someone who says to themselves, well, there really isn't anything that's going to last, is there? Everything is impermanent. All of these compounded phenomena, they are impermanent. Everything that I might gather together eventually will run out. Everything that I might build up will eventually fall down. All meetings end in parting. And birth ends in death. Every moment since the moment of my birth, every moment that passes in my life brings me closer to the moment of my death. How many years have passed by in my life? How many years in the future might I have left? And when it comes to how much time we have left, we also have to acknowledge that this precious human life, the human life is like a candle in the wind. Will that candle burn for as long as there is butter still present or oil still present in the lamp? Or will it be blown out by the wind, by a gust of wind coming from the east, a gust of wind blowing from the south, a gust of wind blowing in from the west? We don't know. The condition is the wind, and the condition of the wind could at any moment in a windy place blow in and blow out the flame. So there are many different obstacles that prevent us from practicing the Dharma during our lives. And we should think about impermanence. We should think about impermanence and feel a sense of weariness with samsara, real sense of weariness, sadness about the samsara condition, and allow that thought of impermanence to inspire our practice. The thought of impermanence and weariness with samsara should inspire our practice, because the degree to which we really take that to heart, to that degree we won't get distracted from our practice. We won't be lazy. We won't be careless, and we won't procrastinate. We won't say, well, I'll do it later, and just keep putting off our Dharma practice. These are our obstacles. These are the obstacles. In Sanskrit we say Mara, right? The Maras, or the demons. In Tibetan, we say obstacles here. These are the obstacles for our Dharma practice: distraction, laziness, carelessness, procrastination. And the way to avoid getting caught under the sway of those obstacles is to think about impermanence again and again and again. And it's so important. It's so important that we do this so as to avoid getting caught up in the obstacles to our Dharma practice.
시발라게 소발에 데레코나 메시시 대화를 되바 렉마이 데레다 가시는 말에 자차자 네테요 말에 도게 사기 만ял데 야 나야 메바 딱 간다 치와테 치진 님의 세테 치진 님의 치진 메바 가요 치진 네바메도 치와 메제레 치진 네바메도 사버도 쳐봤죠. 말아서 쳐치게 좀 semla 남치 참에 야야 삼투 거래. 가세 semla 야고치 코르통도 네버지죠. 네버치리 젠칼라치는 네바메도 남치 참에도 상다 이제 치마니 왜 가는 메시베 소화를 근데 기본이 되는 메다야 가지고 메다 조시 줄이야 가지고 제초도 안에 저들아 나라시 좋아다 가와 좋아다 가다요 버려라 안에 dorna 메시데나마 칼치슈도 쳐 양소나야 따라 칼치슈 제니 셴담이세게 되고 나는 레로다 아메다 치쇼도 저거는 전 고거래 고거 랑케라는 고거 랑케시는 고거 라시니가 이제 밀르를 붙여도 추수스당 다가도 삼대는 랑케라는 셈들한테 개바다 시시 바이오 양으로 질레고 개바다 시시 바이오 양으로 제 줄레면 다 양내 치술지 시거래 디시는 튼장 맛이 저런 값을라야 제배 tektisinte do sa냐 나주 그 값을라야 되는 제바의 시시 바이 tektisinte 그 고수가 단도나 냠레치게 차그래 근데 냠레치게 차요나 안에 되게 퉁퉁지라 냠레 도서타 지마라시 카트도 dorna dimbi pacha de ma khati do tende le tene cheni yeshe de rashi je do je ta de khalu chete de melo toba kala jipla melo ludi de chusus ma ta ji me je gore de so za maran ga me ta joshi se de ji me je ya do sa nya na ju 각 값은 메타바이 탐지 메타바이 메타 조시디에 또 자꾸 그래 되는 투로 샤로나.
Shantideva said, the thought, I won't die today, is something that really stands in the way of our Dharma practice. And we actually don't know that that's the case. People die all the time doing all sorts of ordinary activities. They die while walking, while seated, while eating food, while lying down. People lie down to go to sleep and then never wake up, never get up again. The conditions that bring about death are uncertain. We have no idea what it is that will be the condition for our death. What is sure, though, is that we will die. This is absolutely certain, but the conditions that will bring about our death are uncertain. So for a Dharma practitioner, the thing that's really important for us to remember again and again and again is, I don't know when I will die. If we can keep this in our mind, if we can really keep this thought in our mind, the thought that death is certain, the thought, I don't know what the conditions are that will bring my death, and I don't know when I will die. This will be very beneficial for our practice. As it is said, who knows what comes next, tomorrow or the next life? And that's really true. So if we can keep thinking about this again and again and again, we can inspire ourselves with the thought of impermanence and a sense of weariness with samsara when reflecting upon impermanence. And if we do this, what happens is we then become very happy to practice the Dharma. We're delighted to practice the Dharma and take joy in our practice. And in short, basically what happens is we become someone who thinks the most important thing in my life is practicing the Dharma. And we understand that getting caught up in distraction and laziness and carelessness and procrastination, we understand that these are obstacles that just fool ourselves and fool others and cause us to waste this precious human life that we've obtained. We understand that it's a total waste. And when we to get caught up in all of these kind of obstacles and distractions. And when we do that, when we know that for sure and feel a sense of confidence about that, then very naturally we will be mindful and we will be careful and we will be conscientious. Our whole experience will be embraced with those. Everything that we do with our body, our speech, and our mind will be embraced by carefulness and conscientiousness and vigilance and mindfulness. And so then what do we need? Well, we have to know how to practice, right? We have to know how to put the Dharma into practice. And it's important to be able to practice at all times, not just in our meditation session. We should be able to practice during all of our ordinary daily activities. We should be able to be mindful and conscientious and careful, practicing when we're walking around, when we're sitting down, when we're eating, when we're lying down, when we're talking. If we're able to be mindful at all of these times, then we're able in any sort of circumstance to apply our 3 gates, our 3 doors of body, speech, and mind to Dharma practice. And if we're really doing that throughout our day all the time, it won't be very long before the 2 obscurations and all of the habit patterns connected with them fall away. And it won't be very long between until the 2 types of wisdom unfold. And that's how we attain accomplishment. And so, in short, it's so important for us to remember that this precious human life is very difficult to obtain and very easy to lose, so we should not waste it. We cannot waste it. It's important for all of us to remember impermanence, to feel inspired by the thought of impermanence and a sense of weariness with respect to samsara, to inspire ourselves so that we do practice all the time. When we're walking around, when we're sitting down, when we're eating, lying down, speaking, if at all of those times we can keep in mind the fact of impermanence and inspire ourselves to practice, then we will be able to practice in a really genuine way. This is extremely important, so please keep it in your heart.
Lende le loa memory. Le neba se de mege wachuri. Le sambo se de kyawa chutri. Le neba mege wachut saga. Rada sheda. Negab the 30. Dumal muta memory. Le sambo se de kyawa chutri. Take rada shed. Negab the 30. Dedi devala, dedi develamla jorgire, tenda sosa lende panglang madurwa chayate, matu sanji pe choki shita zawa dawa te mena meta meva. Yena teta boke lende namshati, yahoji saboji shene tepe nyemi gewe peyo. 야호 시에네 대바 메게we chot 빡 게와테 페 아미여데야 마시데 다우도야 볼라마 텔라테네 롱가 예소 테네 슬레바타 살와타 타와 되는 영어요래. 라버도 셈. 되는 퇴성 시작 그 값이 얘가요. 퇴바야고 제토바. 바르도 선배 제바야고 제시바. 라버도 검 염려야고 줄은 제와 정말라. 되니 개vel레트 같이 싸워야 뒤지기 때문에 시작 편로 와도 냠도 제벌 줄을 제와 나 편도 sab지 미쳐봐요. 그래서 자 되는 레게 데이트 다 줄수 있어. 감성 코마 또 줄수 있어. 레게 다 티버래. 그 소야 돼. 레게 데이트 티게 도만 나나 som만 요요. 레게 삽심도 싸봐야는 예소소 그도만. 근데 레까는 담만 되셔봐야는 메타 밀류다. 저는 슬라이드를 때도 라마이를 때도 따지는 거예요. 마세베게 땡겨진 냠내 쳐봐야는 땡겨진 삼땡기 냠내 쳐 메가와주도 빵 개와주 라서 타운도 삼땡기 냠내 쳐봐야는 주로 마고 쳐요래. 근데 세비점 받을 때도 거예요. 시제 받을 때도 거예요. 잠깐 산제베게 쳐때 주 샤다 만나가지고요. 가를 만나봐서는 되는 단이 다 근거에 받아. 단이 다 드라이 받아. 그 레드니가 가르쳐도 단이 다 빵보에 받아. 되는 때는 랑 맞죠? 드라이 쳐려요 말에. 차다 모습 때가 내가 드라이 테리 내가 텔 때는 랭게 봐서 나버는 게 봐요. 동안 봐요. 되니 대왕도 손은 동안 못하면 봐도요. 요한에 못하면 봐도 저기요. 그래서 자퇴 받아. 만족이 잡던 것에 대해 또 잡았다 인생 돈이도 싫어. 다 되기 때문에 내가 잡고요. 탑도 잡고요. 내가 다 터도 잡대래. 거대래. 때 타르바탑 조약에 잡아야 되래. 탐진심 고바 터봐야 되래. 아주 내발 참쳐가지고는 내가 암직해봤지 라 때네 암치 멘트 사고가래. 배태셔도 또바투지제데 암치자버려. 담배 추게 맨다버려. 멘트 사동 잡아버려. 배태셔도 사제주 소백에 추게 수준도 냠소만 버려. 텔랑 거래. 텔 랑수라한테 저 너도 잠 인제 세트는 잠바 세트하고 맞서 somata 잠 대화다 대외 주 된대 동아르도 주 찬대 술은 대화 타입이 심지어 탐지 대화 멘트 받치셔 매버리 대화도 대외 주티 대답이 줄라 잠바데 인지 돈이 똑같이 용고요 돈이 또 싫었지 줄지 동아르도 주티 라션 가게 다 차오 다 삽셔버데 차다 모습 대나네야 원주를 넘어도 참아 대롱주 예 걸어 주서 딱 가는 차차받아 셔마 차시 텔라 때네 당신들 말진데 텐실라서 똑같이 제 제별로 대 차다 얘기 짜와라고 차다 얘기 짜와라고 그 맹거가라 모두 다 그러 차다 제 주현라고 말 인생 세대 말 인생 개념부터 님이 이시 따지 말 님이 이시서 담배 또 시럽세에 대말 돈이 주저세에 대말 라버도 주대나라 네 주탐색이 나는데 유그노로 멤버십을 왕 조르집을 치 잡대지 노 되는 명아 소소여라 그래서 왕 나네야 다 가르치시는데 worksheets 보완의 즉 상황의 니 시럽 이시 중앙도 좀 청원 기타 대응하마데 네 어선 맞춰봤더니 어선 맞춰서 이렇게 숨제 템지 그 숨지 실이 얘네 여다 란시게 여다 만배 랑게 숨지 실이 얘네 여다 대신 what washing 거예요. 그 washing 민족한테 가르치는 것은 차다 모습 되는 washing 중이에요. 라파 차다 모습 처음 콜스부터 또 봐. 딜레 대바니 데미 바자다 제바 야는 대바시 대바니 대바시 데미 바자다 제바 세메니2 용죽소 대바시 나 가깝소 다 동목 값으로 짐이 바자다 제바 되게 주의 대신이 집 심장 탐지 그 심지를 요비 주의의 집제 대신이 근데 알아서 남는 배가 제름 좀 냠솔라는 남는 라바 처tum지 라바야 보지 소 대강라 라바 땡겐지 냠래야 보지 제 되네 셔럽 라 되네 코스 염소가 셔럽게 바로도 좀 공부 제마시시 당보 퇴 바로도 전에 제베티게 제바케 뜻소가 죠 조데 또 출신도 냠소 나와 얘는 안 가려버려 그래서 안 tellatende diptal 대신 dipjet 대신에서 다 대하고 줄라발라서 공부하는 마다 봤다 다 봤다 근데 다 되면서 마다 다 쉽도 다 봤어 그런 걸 봤을 때 소리가 근데 말에 대해서 다 근데 다 subjectamente 대화다 대외주 대주 동아도 주다 사람들 로도 야야 그 잠든 자주 쓴 제가 야야 검다 다 다다 카도 가르쳐 그래서 나라를 줄 니지셔도 제가 내가 중주도 셰트 라고치 셰트밖에 자와테 심지테라 라는 로바 람지 답수 소도 로바 람지 답수 투제수 소도 어텔한테 더 갈고치래 이제 대소도 대답을 냠내지 거라다 대 영화를 잡았나 근데 몰라서
Cause and effect is unfailing. The result of negative karma, that is to say, the 10 non-virtues, is painful. It's suffering. And the result of positive karma, the practice of the 10 virtuous deeds, is happiness for oneself and others. So when we engage in negative actions, the 10 non-virtues, when we engage in that kind of action, it brings suffering to ourselves, it brings sufferings to others, it brings suffering right now, and it brings suffering in the long term. All of that suffering comes about from non-virtuous actions. And when we engage in virtuous actions, that brings happiness to ourselves, it brings happiness to others, it brings happiness right now, and it brings long-term happiness as well. So it's very important that we are very careful in adopting virtue and avoiding non-virtue. We have to not make mistakes when it comes to practicing virtue and avoiding non-virtue. This is really the basic foundation, the essential and indispensable foundation for our Dharma practice. And the way to do this properly is understanding very clearly the problems that come from non-virtuous actions, understanding the flaws of non-virtue, the faults of non-virtue, and understanding the benefits of engaging in virtue. When we understand this very clearly, then we will avoid non-virtuous actions and we will take up the practice of virtue. So this is something that we will do physically, verbally, and mentally. And the more that we engage physically, verbally, and mentally in avoiding non-virtue and taking up the practice of virtue, the clearer and more lucid and more relaxed and at ease our body, our speech, and our mind will be. But especially our mind. And when that happens to our mind, then our wisdom, the wisdom that comes from study and reflection, can unfold in an unobstructed way. And in particular, our meditation will improve. And the degree to which we engage in virtuous actions, to that degree, we will notice that we have an increase in wisdom. Our experience and realization will unfold within our minds. And so it's very, very important to adopt virtue and avoid non-virtue. Sometimes we make the prayer, may all of my negative deeds and obscurations and negativity be purified, and may the 3 realms of samsara be emptied. And this is important because when we engage in negative actions, the result invariably is painful. If we engage in very heavy negative karma of the negative actions, we will be reborn into the 3 lower realms and experience the pain and suffering there. If we engage in positive actions, we might be reborn in the higher realms as gods, humans, or demigods. And actually, if additionally we practice meditation, so if we practice the 10 virtues, avoid the 10 non-virtues, and engage in meditative practice, the practice of samadhi, then we can arrive at the very highest point within samsara. And this is not just Buddhist practice that can bring this result. This is something that's possible within other religious traditions as well. We can, through that kind of meditation, arrive at the highest point, the pinnacle of samsara. But we're still in samsara. So what's different about the Buddhist teaching? What's different from other religious traditions? Buddhism teaches us, the Buddha has taught us, that our enemy is ourself. We are our own enemy. We are our own protector, and we are our own witness. Our enemy is not outside. It's not something outside of us. Our enemy is our own attachment, our own hatred, our own delusion. And this is our enemy because those kind of afflictive emotions cause us to engage in negative actions. And when we engage in negative actions, then the ripening of those negative actions is always painful. It is the painful result of suffering. And engaging in non-virtue just brings us, the only result that can come from non-virtue is suffering. And so when we engage in non-virtue, we mire ourselves in the unending cycle of pain and suffering. So this is our enemy. The negative deeds that bring that pain are our enemy. How is it that we are our own protectors? What is our own protector? Our protection as practitioners is love and compassion and the wisdom that realizes emptiness. This is what can protect us. This is what can save us. This is what can lead us to liberation. This is what can lead us to the state of omniscience. When we're sick, we have to go see a doctor. And the doctor gives us medicine, but then we have to take the medicine. Just like that example, the Buddha is like a skilled doctor for us. The Dharma is itself the medicine, but we have to take the medicine. And taking the medicine is likened here to actually putting the Dharma teachings into practice, practicing the Dharma. How do we do this? We do this through cultivating love and compassion. We should really think well about love. What is love? Here we can say love is the wish for all beings to be happy and to have the causes of happiness. We also cultivate compassion, the wish for all beings to be free from suffering and its causes. Who do we want, again, to be happy and to have the causes of happiness? Who is it that we want to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering? It's all sentient beings, every sentient being without exception. And what are the causes that lead to happiness? Those causes are love and compassion and the wisdom that realizes emptiness. What is it that brings suffering? And what are the causes of suffering? What is the enemy of all of us? What is our shared enemy? It is our own attachment and aversion and delusion. The attachment is more manifest, it's more obvious. Attachment to wealth, possessions, power, fame, our friends and family and so on, that kind of attachment. But what is at the root of that is this kind of fixation to me, I and me, and grasping to myself and things that are mine and reality as being something that's real. That leads to more and more grasping and clinging. The root, though, of our attachment and our aversion or our aggression is something that's a little bit harder to see, but it is what motivates our attachment and aggression. It's what brings that about. And that's delusion. That's dualistic ignorance. Dualistic ignorance. So we have to overcome that dualistic ignorance. And the remedy for that is non-dual wakefulness. It is the wisdom that realizes that there is no self. Or you could say it is the wisdom that realizes emptiness, free from any type of conceptual complexity. When it comes to training in the tantric system of practice, to practice the tantras, we have to first receive the ripening empowerments. We receive the liberating instructions. We receive the supportive reading transmissions. And we receive the oral instructions or the pith instructions. It's essential to receive the empowerments, and there are 4 of them: the Vaz empowerment, the secret empowerment, the wisdom knowledge empowerment, and the precious word empowerment. What is the precious word empowerment really pointing to? It's pointing to uncompounded luminosity, which is the basic condition, the basic state of all sentient beings without exception. It's something that's present primordially since the very beginning within all sentient beings. It's naturally there. It's there without any effort whatsoever on our part. We have to come to recognize this basic nature. And that's what is pointed out in the 4th empowerment. But what gets in the way? What is it that prevents us actually, or doesn't allow us to come to that recognition? It's our own attachment, our own aversion, and our own stupidity on a more coarse level. In a more subtle way, we can say it is thoughts related to the 3 spheres of subject, object, and action. Or we could also say it's obscuration, the 2 obscurations, or the 4 obscurations, or the 2 obscurations together with all of the habit patterns that are connected with them. In the tantric context, we enumerate 4 obscurations: the waking state, the dream state, deep sleep, and union. In the general context of the Buddha's teachings, we speak about 2 obscurations: the 2 obscurations and all of the habit patterns connected with them. And this is precisely what obscures our basic nature, suchness. But those obscurations are temporary. They can be cleared away. When they're present in our mind stream, then we say that the basic nature or suchness that is present in our mind is called obscured suchness, because it is obscured temporarily by those obscurations. But if we train on the path, if we take up the practice of the path, if we train in the training in discipline, the training in meditation, and the training in wisdom, then we can clear that away. Those obscurations can be cleared away. Especially if we train in the wisdom of the perfection of wisdom, the Great Mother. If we first listen to those teachings on the perfection of wisdom and then contemplate them such that we clear away any kind of doubts that we might have with respect to them, and then actually put what we have come to understand, put that directly into practice, then that obscured suchness can become unobscured suchness. In texts like the Uttara Tantra Shastra, it's mentioned in terms of different circumstances or states: the impure state, a pure state, or an extremely pure state. All sentient beings, if we make the prayer, may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. If we generate that type of attitude again and again, if we give rise to bodhicitta again and again, how is it that we can be benefited through that kind of contemplation and practice? Well, the immediate benefit that happens right now is that my own compassion increases. I become a more compassionate person. But also, this becomes the seed or the cause for being able to benefit beings in an extensive way in the future. The way in which the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas gave rise to bodhicitta while training on the path, and the aspirations that they made while training on the path, result in their ability to benefit beings more extensively once attaining the fruition. And so this is something that's extremely, extremely important for us to keep in mind.
Kewachula tene, kewachula soba, kevele sabala tene, te samkishi, Dharma toba shirabam, toni tritaram, vasam duma chepate, washabala, lada mepe chochi yaba yaba sonza, ane kevele te kharchipare, tenyola tene, jir meke chubung ki kewa, tang, Gewacho Tantolami Gavata, Paradisha, two Yamsalami Gavata. Then that capsule, Papala, Sana Dorjiti, Yamleki capsula, then water book, say, Nani, Jambo the Kanchubari. Nazo Cherry Consul Solo, Magu Butter, Made Butter, Korata Balaso, Choge Momosai. They saw Choge Mamo, Sabateke, they do Nieto, Sabeta Tabachavala, Cherry Consul, Yeden Tabata. Gajen chepe kone, tene jambu deya kharcha batamu. Taiyebe simje la moshu yusum di kone, tene chewa naba nasoba, neba naba nasoba sayi cheyu jiri. Teya chewa chame marone tadeg bardula. Sarsu te luwa yusum di kone. Ta megawa ju chameba nga, nyewe chameba nga, nasoba ta mogo yori, dorna nese. Nurse ka chama teke te lame to tamore te lame to tamor chamala to sala dorsi tibe ki nyamle kapsula that cham di chajo se te ya boya tamu te tan dele korne ta luba yesu ji korne sangjang kare ba te pena ha ho she je pa ma jo ne la so ne chero soyeba ta te yela duba sa kharcha bara ta re shinto ne shugu medo kemoke jeshi jyare te yela döntila la tene te tato bata choche sato luma yisun te bacha de sama tato bata sono choche bo sato ba te yela dönte khacha mai bi ning tama ne ho she ze pa ma ju la so chu che no cha wo so jo ta ye le cho yi se ka lo ba ye su ju ko ni ta ba de te che de ne sa ba ye na te ta de be ke cha te le ya de ne sa nga ko lo le de ba ma ba jang cha se su bu de ba ye jang cha che ta te ko la ke bu ji she ya bu jo sa de ye ya cha shu ba ye me du 가들 체력 통만의 류그고의 속접과 마지막에 반대별로 오리야. 셴라 대답이 랭에 셴라 싹도 죽어도 셴지 랭에 버서와는 예수 예라한테 제백이 되게 받아들여. 처음에 다 도고요. 그래서 차 처음부터한테 가르쳐 보시라래. 대한 처는 뭐는 당연히 참고 거기서는 장을 그 뭐부터 처는 오늘 뭐가 땅 살아야 뭐도 가시제 것도 뭐 나타다 단다 냠le 제시바 있기래 그 마오바는 오늘 뭐 맞은 냠le 제는 야부도 대한 투도 단다 라메토도 파제 것인데 그룹에만 좀 이렇게 되는 Juru Mangaki Niku, Tuba Big Techu Zachimore, Tulapa Techu. Or Teta Sozo, Tin Jabu Naba Chenze, Gongu, Chole, the Soke, the Tuki, Nyamshet, Zo Nashama Zirela, the Karma Koto Mamboto, Shen, Jimmy Lama Momoji, the Lamata, Gavishi, Chuchi Mamoji, Yamso, Lam, that Langshama, Yamso Lam, and Kutu to Tula. Nyamta, Milam, Tula, Topa Chebarji, Chebeka, Lujuya, Moji Ever. Tesos of Chandabek and Dedamik, one room of Saja Night, Pemas, Sodom Chabare, Mutu, Narama. Te Nak Gonde, Juta Trama, Susu, Majak, Yedo Paja, Hamlet, the Tato, Partridges of Gonde. Tene, each Gondeta, Napsenta, Nesenta, Lotalaso. What did they do? Taking condition, but Ranki Chabata, Shella Chetin, Shenji Chabat Chabat. Jesu Yara, the Chabaki. They do plummet the top of Chavala. Then mentors, Chinason, mentor. That mentors said the Shabak, some of those to be. Then the sauce, Sasuchi, Chala, Church of us, and then they take it at the Wobble, Chashes, and play a Maima. Comes by your Dalu, Lodge, Gasot, push out. Another 70% della Chabada Sheba Shuchimboy, Seba Shuchimboy, Chabada Sheba Senda, Shergan Juki, Tamsin, Army to Talu, there's all the Chinazo, Major, the Sajan number, they are Ben Masipi Yaboreta, and so them to Chimosai, so them social raps are the easy now and Yabashu, the Major Shichon or so on. That's challenge to Chamda Yinji. Then never charges about, was a charges about, so to watch about, get down Juna. Then true Sibato, true Herbato, true Gire, then also the Batan, Topan, Kachar, so at the team, but I moves.
Why am I mentioning this? Because karmic cause and effect is something that is unfailing. So if we engage in the 10 non-virtues, then it is certain that we will bring about suffering, both for ourselves and for others. And if we take up the practice of the 10 virtues and any other kind of virtuous action, then this is something that brings benefit to oneself and others. And avoiding non-virtue and practicing virtue is an unsurpassed condition that makes it easier to come to recognize our basic nature. The absence of self, the wisdom that realizes selflessness, emptiness free from any type of conceptual complexity, uncompounded luminosity. Avoiding non-virtue and practicing virtue are unsurpassed conditions for coming to recognize that. And therefore it's so important that we avoid the 10 non-virtues, that we practice the 10 virtues, that we practice the 6 perfections. And then there are also these unique practices that we find in the Vajrayana, the 5 times 100,000 accumulations of the Ngundro. And from among these 5 Ngundro practices, the first one, taking refuge, is something that's extremely important for us to do because we have gathered a lot of negativity. It's quite possible that we've gathered a lot of negativity because of being disrespectful or careless or looking down upon the 3 jewels, the objects of refuge. And because of the negativity that we have gathered in this way, we engage in the practice of taking refuge as a way of remedying that, purifying that negativity. And we do this by recalling the positive qualities of the 3 jewels and also recalling the kindness of the 3 jewels, the objects of refuge. So bringing this to mind, we take refuge. And we also engage in a lot of negativity and have accumulated a lot of negativity with respect to countless, limitless sentient beings in the past. And so as a way of purifying that harm, we give rise to love and compassion and bodhicitta, because it's definitely the case that in the past, physically, verbally, and mentally, we have hurt sentient beings by engaging in the 10 non-virtues, breaking our commitments, and in all sorts of other ways. And so in order to purify that, we give rise to bodhicitta, compassion and bodhicitta. And we can also engage in all sorts of other kind of practices of physical, verbal, and mental purification and accumulation, like the practice of the 7 branches that we recite, Om Ahum Kri Rigzin Pama Jungne, and so forth. This prayer, I don't need to get into every syllable and explain it in great detail because the Khenpo has already explained this to all of you. But this practice of the 7 branches is very beneficial as a way of purifying our negativity and gathering the accumulation of merit in vast measure, bringing to mind all of the Vidyadhara, Padma, Kara, and all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions, the 4 times, and so on, and making offerings to them of actually present offerings, mentally created offerings, and so on, making prostrations. All of these practices are ways of purifying our negativity and gathering merit. This is something that's very beneficial, the practices like this 7-branch practice that we find taught in the Vajrayana teachings. And again, the Khenpo has already explained this to you very clearly, and so I don't need to actually repeat what he has already gone through. But I do want to say that the practice of the Ngondro is essential for us as a way of purifying any kind of physical negativity that we have engaged in, like through killing, through stealing, and through sexual misconduct. Anything that we have engaged in ourselves, any of these non-virtues that we have encouraged others to engage in, and anything that of this type that someone else has engaged in and we rejoiced in their negativity. All of that negativity, all of those evil deeds that we have accumulated in this way can be purified through engaging in the practice of the prostrations together with taking refuge. And I think many of you have actually perhaps already completed the preliminary practices, the Ngondro practice, the 5 times 100,000 accumulations. And I think it's also likely that many of you are currently in the process of doing that. If you haven't, it's good to do it in the future. It's really beneficial to do this practice. And here, the Ngondro practice that you're receiving instruction in is the practice from the Lame Tuktup Barche Kunsel, the Guru's heart practice that dispels all obstacles. This is a teaching of Guru Padmasambhava that really condenses all of the tantras and the scriptures and the pith instructions all together. This cycle is primarily connected with the great masters Kensei, Kongtrul, and Choling, Chogyur Lingpa, but a number of great masters, like many incarnations of the Karmapas, and lots of masters from all different lineages, Rime masters, have trained in this practice. And through the practice they have gained, there are many accounts of people gaining great experience and realization, having special signs, experiences, unique dreams, and giving rise to unique realization through this practice. So it's very, very precious. And it's really wonderful, all of you that are doing this Ngondro. And it's really wonderful if you continue and complete the practice. So after the practice of prostration, purifying our physical body and the physical negativities that we have engaged in, the practice of Vajrasattva is a way of purifying the negative deeds we've engaged in with our speech. Lying, speaking harshly, speaking divisively, and idle chatter and gossip. And then we purify also the mental negativities that come from covetousness, ill will, and wrong view. And all of the habits connected with them, all of the negative deeds such as this, just like we said before, the negative deeds that I have engaged in myself, the negative deeds that I have encouraged others to engage in, the negative deeds that they have engaged in, I have then rejoiced in. All of those negative deeds and obscurations that I have accumulated in this way are purified the mental negative deeds are purified specifically through the practice of the outer, inner, and secret mandala offering. Mandala offering practice is a unique Vajrayana practice that is a very easy to do and extremely profitable and beneficial way of gathering accumulations. And it's something that's extremely easy to do because we don't actually have to offer something physical there, right? We are offering with our mind, we are offering the entire three realms, everything present in those three realms, the whole world and everything in it, my own body, my own enjoyments and wealth, and even my merit. So all of those things we offer. And the reason we offer this is because we have so much attachment and so much stinginess. And in order to purify all of our attachment and all of our stinginess, we offer the outer, inner, and secret mandala offerings. And so we gather a huge amount of merit. And as it is said, through perfecting the accumulation of merit, may the illumination of wisdom shine forth. This is from the fourfold mandala offering practice. And so here, if we want to give rise to the view of the luminous great perfection, the luminous Mahamudra, if we have an aspiration to give rise to that view, then it is possible that this can, that doing the practice of the Mundro can act as a condition for that view to be born within our mind. It's reasonable that it would happen, that this would happen, and that this will happen. As it is said, when the obscurations are purified, then realization dawns naturally.
Jalwa kusum tu silap lau jul jomar chapalati lamen dan jor usta suare tate saga dorje tepeki nyamne gina khalchi chu jere te tate nyamsu la men meta mebatra kote teba ta thana gele ra legre te so te teba ta thana te jul jaya kale khabu yabare te roja no sharap cheveki Kansaki and the Titabuki Mechel, Tono Yogare Matudes, Kalakaburi. They are Tanya Somanso Domate, then Yamle Mugul Association, Yamle Sala Dorset with Yamle, now the culture should carry Mugu Tana to catch Mugu Tana rap Chijorasabaino, tell a tenant, Tobi. Then double should settle the journal, Jessica. There's all the Lamaya, double shortage to go. Lamaya, Mugutama, Cheddar, Tabajo, then Lalo, over elevated dress, so are then there's all the laminage of the culture. That turned to Ransom Ramoshe at the laminage of Mamati, Ransom Ramoshe, the children, the Lamala. Soldep chair, or she later, 2 years ago, Yamlet to catch a body. That thing what I answered them, want to check up to the ship, some more and check that they should not sugar and do. So, Dordo, Gondro, Bombach, Sergeant Nayati, now circuits on the game in Tama, the Tamata, nature, Lubini, Sally, should they make it Gondro, Bomba, Sergeant Namata, Gay, just a year ago. What Mormia Bushui. That other what the Bonga Sergeant Nashibatsoke, Mutude, the Sergeant Tribachanarona. The Mao Jumjur Laria, what the Bonga, Sergeant Naket in the Chona, the Nakin Tapa, the Jesu around the Kasuya. Then the Tanda January, Chepa, Tuni Bada, Chen Gondo. Dachuki yore, Tatalu Dawachi, Masu, Adolubidella, Decora Dogo yore, the Dutasums are ringing by Ibayo, Tibetan Mondo, 봉가테 사술 라네다 맥바다 라네다 제바 다른데 공부를 듣는 거 주야이 대체가 받쳐요 팩트페이가 가시요 대면한테는 온라인인지 민지 그냥한테 책을 대마서 나오나 되게 못 tweeted 야 내지 나랑 같이 지시해 나라 나라마 상고 본자요래 담아 상마야 못 토요래 나 나랑 그 맞죠 나랑 그 맞도 그래 맞도 되게 와는 트리면나 나 sab리면서 뭐 토요래 아 손을 쥐고 내리 이나에다 나랑 그냥 무슨 맞도 나랑 그 신차래 되게 대소장이 책을 말할 때 돼서 또 배워야 기치라고 해봐야나 대충하다 나 계시지 못하봐 자벨라가 좋게 되고 소샤다 안 되게 돼 개 마셔봐 가래 소가 되겠잖아 사지지 가다 망갈와 어떤 지를 받아 망갈와 라메게 내가 망갈와 전에 내 쉬고 때는 투가 잘한다 다 들은들 초점상이
If we purify obscuration, negative deeds, then realization dawns naturally. The excellent method for purifying negative deeds of body, speech, and mind is the practice of the Ngundro, the preliminary practices. But in particular, the method for purifying all of the obscurations and evil deeds of our body, speech, and mind together, and the unsurpassed way for giving rise to the blessings of awakened body, speech, and mind, for those blessings to enter into us swiftly. The method for this is what we call Guru Yoga. And this is really the most important practice in Vajrayana. To be able to practice Guru Yoga, we have to have faith and devotion, but that's a little bit difficult. For those who have a very wide, open mind and whose intelligence is sharp, then this kind of practice fits and makes sense and is delightful. There's something that's a little bit hard otherwise to make sense of, which is that in Vajrayana practice, we need to know the practice to be devotion itself, knowing the practice itself to be devotion. This is actually points to the fact that the root of Vajrayana practice is devotion and pure perception. Practicing Vajrayana depends on devotion and pure perception. And if we have the highest level of devotion and pure perception, it's possible for the wakefulness that is present in the realized mind of the guru to be instantaneously transferred to the mind of the student. In order for that to happen, though, the guru has to be someone who has supreme realization, and the student has to be someone who has excellent devotion, really genuine devotion and pure perception. And then it's possible for the guru's realization and the student's realization to become indivisible. The real practice of Guru Yoga is to recognize the nature of your own mind. Recognizing the nature of your own mind is the genuine Guru Yoga. In order to be able to come to this recognition, that's why we supplicate the Guru. That's why we receive the four empowerments. That's why we mingle our mind together with the mind of the Guru. And you have all been receiving the instructions on the Ngundro practice in great detail. And so I don't need to get into a lot of the details because you have already really received them very well. Those of you who are currently practicing the Ngundro practices, the 5 times 100,000 accumulations of the Ngundro, these practices of purification and accumulation, I really rejoice, and I dedicate and make aspirations for you. Here, right now, I'm in the holy place in Lumbini, and so I rejoice in your practice, and I make dedications and aspirations for those of you who have completed the Ngundro practices. Also for those of you who are in the process of doing the Ngundro practice, please continue, and I rejoice in your practice. And if some of you in the future take up the practice of the Ngundro, I rejoice from the bottom of my heart, and I'll be delighted if you do these practices. So starting soon, in a few weeks on January 6th, from January 6th onward, we will begin the 1-month Mundo practice. And this is something that will be happening at the monastery. If you are able to come, then please do. If you can't come, then you can join online. But please join online and do the practices genuinely if you're unable to come in person. So this is a wonderful opportunity to practice. And also I will continue as much as I can to share with you the pith instructions that I have myself received. I have met incredible, great masters. I have received a lot of pith instructions. It's simply a matter of my own lack of success in practice, but in terms of empowerments, in terms of transmission, in terms of pith instructions, I have been extremely fortunate. I have really received quite a lot from my precious teachers. So I will try to continue to pass on to you those instructions that I've received from them without mixing anything in, just passing directly on the genuine teachings that I've received from my own root gurus. So please receive these instructions and put them into practice. Please keep this in your heart. We'll leave the teaching session here for today.
Lama si lama sum desikai lama sura tela ning 대바다 들어가셔야 그것이 같이 버리 tela desikai lama 가사 주변 lama 나와 다이 lama sum 가디네 때네 되었다면 lama 랑기 셈이 추니 된담 시지 라마 된담 시지 라마데 된담 시지 라메 라샤를 잡았나 되네 젠데 공개 라마송 같은 때네 된담 시지 라마데 잡고래 된담 시지 라마데 동상 소주 드마체 세슈는 되네 동신 동산 이거는 딱식이 라시게 양대요. 소주데 예술가버리. 도마체디 제가 내서도 잘거래. 대답하게 내로도 모셔내 딱 강조거래. 강조. 검주 매버리. 검네 들좀 매고 얘네 기지 좀 매미스. 검에 얘매스. 로도 나바시 검거래. 원로 뭔가 검거래. 제대 도서 갑선에 보면 뭐예요. 딱 조림 취업을 그 값으로 딱 거네요. 검나 로리. 검주 들잖아요. 말. 이런 깨지 제야. 검에 얘매대. 내가 가랑게 딱 닝제렇게 캠보다 라마다 딱 말은 소리게 그것도 티다. 자도게 나고요. 딱 네 말을 해라. 탐마도 추수지 거고도 까만가 저 겁나 됐다 또가ยืน째서 깔아가버려. 탐마도 추수지 랍소는 따고 추수가리 조를 들여서 알아서 내가 내도 추수 들제 내가 말해도 돌아오랍니다. 텐다시 틀라 삼로타네. 나도 다르바 탐지 싶어 커버 터고 고지. 다 냠레 뭐지 뒤에 말이 냠레 뭐지. 따대라 종대와 따대 종대. 검네 도서 검주 매봐. 얘는 깨지지. 얘는 출발해봐. 따대 텐다면 내 사한테 다 추주 보고 제치시도 딱 짜와 직시 컨트롤 해야 돼. 텐다면 내로 따라 하셔 잡아라. 탑나나 쳐봐서 딱 갑자기 쉬면 다시 탑 퇴선 그 탑, 사자 그 탑. 안에 탑나나 쳐봐서 라 때네 마도 대선 주니까 하셔도 잘되고요 말이. 워시래요. 딱 워시만 잡지 팽그 말이 낭종세. 낭종아 짤적거래. 제성거래. 때마다거래. 때마다는 줘봤다. 세슈거래. 데르투로 샤로나. 아니 단다다 온라인나 캠보 주주상부기 단다. 원로케 티티 야야야 저라서 모두 딱해서 야야야 유세네 야고요래 대세로나 겸뭐 까르만 주미 게 줄라마 치치요래 대처도 이즈미 제사로나 겸뭐 빼만 남자께 단다 셔럽 연거데 잡아줘요래 대야세로나 되게 맛을 베게 다 간정조 저라 나주 로마 Dr. Thomas Umatsawa Shira. Te Lama Mamuchi dan Chedro Mamuchi Kun Inchi Bichi te Shira Chi So Dwa. Te Mingla Yang Karse Teacher Training Se Group Chichen. Te Ta Thomas te Gi Inchi Bichi Savetar Kids Love You. Kola te Nyamno Yamu Yore Karse Umatsawa Shira la phendr tere tebi jense majawaso pe jachmojore teda uma je tanda mepamki jaba jamena bi shamu la so ume korma boch konjore yore sheya shirsi kortotam pesa mando jore yore te kora nachela nebata koto yeba tam masebe kora nyamlem pare Nyamle pare scholar practitioner re te so so alo chana so te zambe sacho kawa yeba yena te teaching jam na national meba yoke so ke te lejar ta je jai ta ni ane pei ta sum ane inchi te yige ta she ten tesho to yoto shenda ke yitolo yoba yena ya te yamashina to te ni tesho chu so joko so yobo yi te chana benchi mi te konka te Dr. Thomas ke te man she yo de chu yamu nye te trewa yamu ta trewa chana so paso tuduru yamu che te chonda 예세를 따다 야고도 요 니슈 sabdum이래 리브레레레 예세 야나 요 시르가라레 예세를 따다 같이 쉐하고 그래 그래 지체는 야고 지장나나 배 갈치 버려 그 쇼트시라 사모레 그 시르는 저 갈치 버려 되게 저 총나 안에 마오 조조 발라 안에 가도 고백이야 개보초게 되는데 이제 반 제바테스 자치 버지 Dharma Jachapasana Mutunima Chutin Chiaki, Kodi Chi. That's what she should have chosen Maba Yaki Kazayana. Never Yabo to Yoda, take my to the Chuti Chana Maranka money. Kodi Kantu to Chigi, Tina Tula Sharana.
There are 3 outer gurus. The guru, which is the words of the Buddha, that is to say, the texts that are the precious scriptures, the words that are taught by the Buddha. We should have faith and devotion towards them and respect them and hold pure perception towards them. And then there is the teacher who's a person who holds the lineage. And then the teacher, the other guru, is the symbolic guru of appearances. Through these 3 outer gurus, we come to realize, through the kindness of these 3 gurus, we come to realize the ultimate guru. And the ultimate guru is the suchness that is the basic nature of all beings. It's present as the basic nature of our mind. This is the ultimate guru of the ground itself. In order to come to recognize, to meet directly our own natural face, we rely upon these 3 outer gurus, which bring us to recognize the ultimate guru, which is our own basic nature. We can call that ultimate guru the unity of emptiness and cognizance, which is uncompounded. It is the unity of emptiness and cognizance, and because it is emptiness and cognizance as a unity, the 2 extremes of permanence and nihilism naturally dissolve. because it is a unity, it is non-dual, and because it is free from being compounded, because it is uncompounded, it is likewise free from arising, abiding, or cessation. This is what we need to come to recognize, this ultimate Guru. This is what we need to not just recognize, but also sustain the continuity of that kind of recognition. You can't meditate upon it because there's nothing to meditate upon, not even an atom's worth of something to meditate upon. But nor can we be distracted, not even for a moment. The 4 mind changings, the 4 thoughts that turn our mind towards the Dharma, you can meditate upon those. You can meditate on the 5 times 100,000 practices of the preliminaries. When it comes to the generation stage, recitation, and the perfection stage, there's a lot to meditate on there. Lots of things to meditate on. But when it comes to the ultimate practices of the perfection stage, there's nothing to meditate upon. Not even a tiny bit. If you meditate, that's the conceptual mind. And if you are distracted, then that is delusion. So we have to practice undistracted non-meditation. I've been saying to the lamas and khenpos and lopans with whom I have a close connection recently, these days I've been telling them, practice meditation every day for at least an hour, this kind of practice. At least an hour. Best is, of course, if you could practice for 5, 6, 7 hours, right? Just 5 or 6 minutes of meditation practice, it's not enough. At least an hour. Of course, it would be better for more. If you don't work 8 hours a day, you don't get a salary, right? So think about this for a minute. What we really need to practice, what we really want, what our practice is actually for, is attaining liberation and omniscience. And what is it that actually brings us that state, that brings us closer to that state of liberation and omniscience? It's the practice of training in that which is easy to look at, easy and blissful to sustain. That practice that cannot be meditated upon, not even an atom's worth of meditation. But if we're distracted, then that's delusion. So not even a moment of distraction. This practice is really the key point, the essential key point of all of the 84,000 teachings of the Buddhist tradition, all of the 84,000 teachings of the Dharma. It's knowing this one thing which liberates everything. And all of the methods of practice that we rely upon are precisely to bring us to this recognition. There are many, many methods related to study and reflection, methods related to purification and accumulation of merit, and so on. But all of that is for this, coming directly to this recognition. And we need those kind of methods because without them we can't come to recognize our nature. But it's essential that we do rely upon those methods as a way of coming directly to this recognition. It's not enough, however, just to recognize it. We have to sustain that recognition. We have to develop the strength of that recognition. We have to gain stability in that recognition in order to obtain the result of awakening. This is something that is extremely important, and so please keep this in your heart. Also, Khenpo Sundru Sangpo has been teaching online the practice of the Ngondro. And those of you who are doing the Ngondro practices, please continue to listen to his teachings again and again and again. Khenpo Karma Gyurme is teaching the Gyulama, the Uttara Tantra Shastra. Please listen to these teachings. Khenpo Pema Namgyal has been commenting on the Heart Sutra. Please also listen to this. Also, my student, Dr. Thomas Doctor, has been requested by a number of lamas and their students to give teachings on the root verses from the Mula Madhyamaka Karikas, the root verses of the Middle Way. They asked for him to give these teachings to students who are in a teacher training course, Buddhist teacher training course. And they asked him to teach on the root verses of the Mula Madhyamaka Karikas because he has a lot of experience with this text and with Madhyamaka in general. He has translated a commentary by Mabcha on the root verses of the Middle Way, The commentary is called The Ornament of Reason. He's also translated a commentary by Mipa Rinpoche on the Madhyamaka Alankara, the ornament of the Middle Way, the words of the Guru Manjushri, Nectar of Manjushri's speech, I believe in English. He's also translated a lot of other texts as well, including commentaries or teachings on the perfection of wisdom. And it's not just that he understands these things also because he's translated them. He's a practitioner. That means he's a scholar practitioner. And so this is a wonderful opportunity to learn this text from him. We are preparing the text so that those of you, wherever you are, anywhere in the world, can join those teachings and listen to them. We're preparing the text in Sanskrit, Chinese, Tibetan, English, and it would be great if it could also be made available in other languages. And Dr. Thomas will explain the text. So what you should do is listen and ask questions and discuss also amongst yourselves, have some discussion groups, and it would be really good if there can be some exams. Also, there are just 27 chapters of the text, so if every 4 or 5 chapters there's an exam on that section of the text, it would be really good, because that would make sure that you can, that would allow you to make sure that you have understood and to clarify your understanding. This text is extremely profound and extremely important, so it's wonderful if you can receive those teachings. And then also in the future, in our monastery, I can arrange to have one of our Khenpos explain more extensively, give a more extensive commentary on the text. I will ask them to do that, but it depends on your interest. If you're interested, if you have the interest, then from our side, we can arrange to make that happen. So please keep this also in your heart.
Deva Biteshu, Chilapchabo, Hodebo, Yamsala Debo, Lexus of Yamlin Chicken, Zabul Sacho Casacale, Gagi, Gaga, Chobaya was sharp to get down to Gaga, Lexus of Yamlin, Chese, Gaga, Chobaya was sharp. There's also Charanda, one of the churches in Yamsala Gona, Lexus. Nyamlete yahon narona, kare se de tena ngado nyamle chisu leba, chidu nyamle chisu leba, Dharma gosun loga yesu dodu sanger kanke kapsula yo, tene chuchushi chisu ki leba kasabu, chirap chibu, pedo chibu yabani yo, tena tene yenchi micho tono chibu nani, Lexus of Yanete, Yaboja Nana, that take a money to the children, tea jaggering, tea pinking, tea gurgling, tea children, law, than Jurachi Mudogram, massive Dawadi, to you, Marabaji Chadore, Genjo Joshi Apogere, some Ninji Apogere, Tisha to go Yamleki about the chapel cheeses. 나중에 돈을 치고 지체네 그 거기 체유라 깨리 망부터로 요래 그때 대만 냠는 나케 졸는데 닌타반데 투지 체슈가 주주도 냠는 나 싶어서야 투지 체 마오바라 처럼서게 멋있어 근데 냠는 제도 내 말을 패서 그러 오요 그때도 파서 쏘네 근데 냠는 체게 장볼 마부지 좋아하는 오늘 전에 아주 심지어 배 따따 세게 딱딱좀 지내지는 것도 셰배 따야 좀 믿어와 뭐로 잡은 되게 말아 제가 도로 샤로가 대도 갈고지인
Also, I know that many of you are aware of this, but the practice of the triple excellence is extremely precious practice that burst forth from the realization of Noble Tara. It is a treasure teaching which is for this very time. It has great blessings. It's easy to understand and easy to practice. And I've seen that practitioners of the Triple Excellence all over the world, there's people practicing the Triple Excellence all over the world. And what I've seen, in short, is that everyone who practices the Triple Excellence becomes a good Dharma practitioner. Everyone. And so if you want to practice the Dharma genuinely, then please do the Triple Excellence. Because in the morning and in the evening, every day, there are instructions on how to put the Dharma into practice, how to practice with your body, with your speech, with your mind, all the time, whether you're walking around or sitting down or eating or talking. There are instructions about how to practice in all of those circumstances, and the instructions are clear and they are beneficial. They really can and will transform you if you do the practice properly. If you really practice the Triple Excellence practice correctly and properly and genuinely, this will benefit you, this will protect you, this will save you. You will see every year a big transformation in yourself. Not just every year. Every month you will see that your mind is different, that it's changed. You will see that your weariness, your renunciation and weariness for samsara increases. You will see that you become more loving and more compassionate. And you will see that your meditation experience improves more and more and more. We put a lot of effort into making these teachings available. They're available in many different languages. So those of you who are practicing the Triple Excellence already, thank you to all of you. And please tell other people that you have connections with about it. Tell them just very honestly. If it's been beneficial for you, then tell them honestly that it's been beneficial and let them know what kind of change and transformation you have experienced through this practice. Because if more and more and more people do this practice and more people benefit from it, well, we talk all the time about benefiting sentient beings, don't we? How else do you think we benefit them besides doing this, helping them connect with real, genuine practice that can transform them? Just praying for them isn't enough. So please keep this in your heart because it's something that's really important.
Thank you. Thank you so much.